You know, Harper knew that was coming. So anyway, here we go with Leighton and Mansbridge. You'll see a difference in tone.
And this is in the back seat of a car.
Be honest, tell me the truth. Who gave you the hashtag fail line?
Well, it was, I think it was probably Carl Bélanger when we were kicking around different ideas.
Did you know what it meant at the
Yes,
time?
I knew what it meant. I knew what it meant, but that's because Olivia is a relentless user of Twitter. So she's got all of the lingo down. I think our goal should be to maximize the number of people that are voting.
Jack Layton is 60, NDP leader since 2003, running in his fourth election. By his own admission, a critical one for him and for his fourth place party. Where's the bar set for you on this campaign?
That's an interesting question. I've always said, I'm a long tack sailor, or another metaphor would be building a house. I like to start with a strong foundation. So as far as the bar I set for myself and for the team is let's just keep building.
You think that things have to move very quickly for you this time? And I ask that, when you look at the stats for the elections that you've run as leader, you're quite right. It's gone up each time. Mm-hmm. 04, 06, 08. Numbers have gone up in terms of seats, percentage of the vote.
Yeah.
The actual vote dropped a little bit last time, but the percentage of the vote went up. But is it time to make a significant move now?
That's up to the Canadian people, but we're certainly working to accomplish that objective, and we'll have to see on the late at night on May 2nd whether we've made that quantum type of leap. I think we're laying the groundwork for it. You never really know in politics when that's going to happen. You can't actually predict it. And if you do, you're getting a little too cocky.
At the beginning of the campaign, there was much talk about Layton's health. He is, after all, battling prostate cancer and hobbling around after recent hip surgery.
I have a little housekeeping, then I'll hand it over to you.
Very good.
Wonderful.
John? Nice to meet you, John.
At first, there were clumsy attempts to hide the cane, but now it's almost become a symbol of power.
Please, a huge East Coast Music Awards welcome.
Anyone who thinks this guy is held back because of his health hasn't tried to keep up with him for a day on the campaign trail.
Pretty cool, eh?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a different approach than what he took with Michael Ignatieff.
Yeah, totally. First of all, like a key difference is, like you said, the setting right before we started there. You said it was set in the backseat of a car. Yeah, it opened up in the backseat of a car. They're sitting there like buddies. And then they cut right away to one of his speeches. So Jack Layton actually gets a chance to air his talking points. And then
it was framed perfectly by Peter Mansbridge as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
you couldn't have framed a pro Jack Layton comment better than Peter Mansbridge just did.
Yeah. So when you listen to the two interviews back to back, would you feel manipulated at all?
I think I think in hindsight that's fairly safe to say. I mean, It doesn't even matter where you stand on the political spectrum. Just being honest and looking at this, to me, it looks like Peter Mansbridge decided that he was going to put Jack Layton up on a pedestal, and he was going to slap Michael Ignatieff around.
And that's exactly what he did. And if you wanted to go back, I'll tell you this: after that Layton piece and after that Ignatieff piece, okay, that's when the Orange Crush started. Okay, then you saw Ignatieff tanking in the polls. Jack Layton did not start. The NDP did not start that election in second place. They were put into second place.
Oh, they were definitely. I mean, you would have to guess that couldn't have hurt. I mean, that had to assist them. The only thing I guess that would be in question as far as the results of the election and that interview is that was in English, and the NDP got so many seats in Quebec.
Yeah, I shouldn't imply that it was the only factor determining NDP success in that election, but I'm just saying it's a major one.
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree with it. It certainly didn't hurt, and it must have helped. How could it not? I mean, that Peter Mansbridge just basically told everybody that Jack Layton is a veteran politician. His numbers are going up. Don't think he's weak. He's a fighter. What else did he say? I mean, those are, that's what he just said, right?
Essentially, that's it. Yeah, and then the settings and everything like that said he's a nice guy and I'm his friend. You know what I mean? And I'm the most trusted person in Canadian media. Why don't we go to a track and then come back with further analysis on the Mansbridge manipulation?
Sounds good.
Here we go. This is Middle Class Revolt by The Fall.
Everything you see, you want. God's clothes. Middle class revolts. Middle class revolts. Put it down, put it down. Belongs house style, sublimates it endless. Bump into each other and jolts. Belongs bump into each other and jolt. A middle class revolt. Calorific. A middle class revolt. A middle class revolt. Everything you see, middle class revolts. Dogs' claws, crashing into seats. Middle class revolts. Middle class revolts. A middle class revolt. Our man, extremely lazy, exuding, cooked pigeon, his words indignant, because he was cooked wrong. Middle class revolts. Middle class revolts. A middle class revolts.
That was Middle Class Revolt by The Fall. How's it going, Mike?
Not too bad. Sounds like time for a middle class revolt.
You know what? Yeah, revolt is a strong word, but you know what? I'd be pretty happy if the middle class would just get its head out of its ass and start voting properly.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
That to me would be just the perfect kind of revolt.
One of my favorite thinkers, Robert Anton Wilson. This is a little tangent here, but
Yeah.
he's accused of all sorts of heresies from being an occultist to being an anarchist to liking Timothy Leary and all these different things. But one of the most profound things that he ever said about politics was, and he's an American, so this isn't an American context, but he said, today it's revolutionary to be a constitutionalist. And that, I mean, I think the same thing goes in Canada as far as you can apply that.
And we should point out that Michael Jean is not a revolutionary of that kind of sort.
No.
Certainly not a constitutionalist.
No.
So what do you want to do next? Oh yeah, did you want to get into that Harper interview?
Yeah, like you said, we don't have a clip from Harper's interview just before the election, but we have one leading into the campaign,
right?
And seeing how Mansbridge, and in this setting here, we see Peter Mansbridge with Stephen Harper. Again, we don't see it because we don't have it, but I'm just to give people the idea, the visuals. they're sitting in kind of like a library setting,
Like a man's study, right?
yeah, a study, exactly. There's the little fireplace in the background and some scholarly looking books, and they're sitting without any obstruction between them, and they're pretty much sitting there with their hands on their legs and their legs wide open, and they're
Yeah, the only thing that would have completed the picture would be a stogie and a couple of glasses of scotch, but that's the set.
Absolutely, yeah.
Setting. Now, can I play this off YouTube right from the beginning? Is that cool? I don't have a.
Yeah, I think the first few minutes will pretty much sum us up here. Three or 4 minutes will give us a flavor for how Peter Mansbridge treats Stephen Harper.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Well, this weekend will mark the 5th anniversary of Stephen Harper's first election victory. How have those 5 years changed Canada, and how have they changed the man himself? Late last week, the Prime Minister sat down to try to answer those questions and more. Tonight, part 1 of our interview. Prime Minister, I guess I should start with a congratulations in a couple of days. 5 years since you first won office. But it's actually, more than that, in the sense that it's 5 years, almost to the day,
Right.
That you will have been leading minority government in Canada. No other Prime Minister has gone that long. I think you now edge out Lester Pearson. Does that mean something to you?
I think it's just an interesting statistic. The minority parliament's been interesting. I think we've demonstrated that it can work. It hasn't always been pretty. We don't get done everything we want to get done, or sometimes I think we need to get done. But I think for the most part, considering what could have happened, it served Canadians fairly well.
A couple of years ago you told me that you thought that Canada may be in for a period of minority government, a series of minority governments. Do you still feel that way?
It's possible, although you're probably aware of my take on where we're headed in the next Parliament. I think we saw forewarning of that in this Parliament. I think the next time our party will either form a majority, or I think we'll see a coalition of the other parties. That's my belief. Everything I see points to that. I, of course, would always be happy to continue. If people of Canada elect the Conservative minority, I'd be happy to do that. But my anticipation is that we'll go one way or the other next time.
Whenever you talk that way about the other parties forming a coalition, you tend to do it in a pretty negative way, and almost that it's somehow it's kind of undemocratic to have a coalition. I mean, there are coalitions in Western democracies, including your friend David Cameron.
Of course, but I think and David Cameron is an interesting example, because they had that debate there, and what I think public concluded was undemocratic and not really legitimate was a coalition of parties who lost an election. Mr. Cameron won the election and then was able to form a coalition. I think really that's the issue. I think if coalition is part of what the public was prepared to vote for, but I think when it's a coalition that is seeming to overturn the result of the election, I think that's when the public have a big problem with that.
I want to talk a little bit about the 5 years, because I think it's interesting to try and sense how the country's changed, how you've changed in those 5 years, and especially in terms of your thinking towards government itself.
Right.
I think it's common for most people to assume they'd feel a certain way if they had such and such a job, and then perhaps feel a little differently when they're in it. So I've been doing a little reading.
Okay.
And I found a few of the things that you've said over the past few years, in a couple of years before you were.
Anyway, so we just cut it there. Mike, I think we can easily detect a different tone between Stephen Harper and Peter Mansbridge than we did with the Ignatieff interview.
Yeah, I mean, again, okay, so you have Peter Mansbridge is willing to, appear to put a question that isn't easy to Stephen Harper.